Welcome to the IonaHoops.com podcast with your host, Guy Flatico.
Season 4, episode 22 of the IonaHoops.com podcast is now in your ears. Well, at least we're back on schedule here. It's only been a couple weeks since the last episode, so hey, I'm getting better. See that? But boy, oh boy, again, a ton of news to share. A whole bunch of new commits. They're going to be done as IOTAs, so I've got a whole stack of IOTAs for you. We'll also have another State of the Union, and I don't know if there's any other news in there, but that should be pretty much enough for you, as the roster is getting a little closer to being done. No more news on the schedule. I can tell you that right now. I haven't heard any more about that, but it hasn't been a focal point for the staff. So at this point, but maybe next time. Anyway. A whole lot to cover. So let's dive in with the long set of Iona IOTAs.
Iona IOTAs.
We are now the home of my boy Biggie. Division II New York Metropolitan Player of the Year James Biggie Patterson out of St. Thomas Aquinas is now a Gael. The 6'7" forward averaged 24 points, 8.5 rebounds, shot 44% from the field overall, 36% from three, 79% from the line. I know everybody loves that. So some great numbers in the Division II level. He got a lot of interest before what would have been an obvious choice for him to land at Iona. Of course, Patterson was recruited to Stack by some guy named Tobin Anderson. So this felt like a natural landing spot for him as soon as he decided to make the jump to D1. But lots of schools showed interest in him. Robert Morris, George Mason, New Mexico State, Towson, UMBC, Cal State Fullerton, Appalachian State, Milwaukee, Cal Baptist, Florida Gulf Coast, Delaware, Monmouth, Wofford. So he received a whole lot of interest, and we are thrilled to have him in New Rochelle. Welcome, Biggie.
Iona IOTAs.
So this one is another big one. This was one of our targets, our focal points. Northern Colorado Junior, and 2024 Big Sky, sixth man of the year, Dejour Reeves has officially entered Gael Nation. The 6-foot guard averaged 14.9 points, 3.5 boards, 1.4 assists, 1.3 steals, shot 47% from the field, 38% from three. That's on 121 attempts. Also, 82% from the line. He's got 1 year left. So yeah, he just completed his junior year. He's out of the Syracuse area originally. So our friends from Hayseed Nation not thrilled that we were able to steal him. Anyway, he got lots of big interest. Arizona State, Nevada, Richmond, Rhode Island, GW, LaSalle, Milwaukee, UTSA, Eastern Michigan, Sam Houston State, Arkansas State, Stony Brook, Bryant, Radford, Portland State, Siena, and Lemoyne all had reached out to him at some point, and he is now a key piece of the Gaels for next season.
Iona IOTAs.
How about a Marfo-like situation here? SIU, that's Southern Illinois, out of Missouri Valley, just finishing his junior year. Clarence Rupert. There's a name you might remember. He is coming to Iona. 6'8" forward who played originally at MAC rival St. Peter's during their Elite Eight run. Averaged 7.5 points on 56% shooting, 5.7 boards as well. Just a tough dude with 1 year of eligibility left as well. And again, making that Marfo-ish type move back to the MAC. If you don't know what the Marfo thing is, you guys might remember Quinnipiac had a guy named Marfo who left Quinnipiac to go to, I want to say something like Mississippi State, played like a season there, barely got on the floor. So he went back to Quinnipiac. So that became an official term called Marfo, that most you'll see all over. If you Google Marfo or if you search on Twitter for players that Marfo, you'll see that term quite a bit. So it's kind of cool that it has a MAC origin anyway, but that's what that's called. When you hear somebody saying that they Marfoed, that's what that is. I figured I'd clarify that just in case you had no idea what I was talking about there. Anyway, what you also might remember about Rupert, again, during the big St. Peter's Elite Eight run, had that huge game Remember when Purdue actually used to struggle against teams in the NCAA tournament? Let's see. Of course, it was FDU before this great year where they ran all the way up until UConn, losing to FDU a year before, losing to St. Peter's in the Sweet 16 game. But Rupert in that game against a Zach Edey-led team, 11 points, 3 boards, 3 steals, 2 blocks. That was as a freshman for St. Peter's. So, anyway, so tough kid, 6'8", is going to play bigger than that. Believe me when I tell you that. Lots of interest from him in the portals as well. Cal State Fulton, St. Bonaventure, Alabama State, Texas State, Drake, NJIT, Pacific, Portland State, and Howard. But he's a Gale, and he's going to be one of those anchors in the front court. Welcome back to the MAC, Clarence Rupert.
Ionas.
Kome Emuobor, welcome to the Gaels. 6'5" guard, transfer from University of Central Florida of the AAC. Previously, before that, he was a 3-star prospect. It was a top 200 recruit in high school, and he prepped at Brewster Academy. Didn't get a lot of run this year for Central Florida for whatever reason. Only averaged a couple points and a rebound. Only played about 6 minutes a game. But back at Brewster, he was ranked as the 20th best prospect in New England. Known as a defensive stopper, more of a slasher style to his game. Also, a lot of pretty good interest for him in the portal as well. Rice, JMU, UIC, Richmond, Stetson, Loyola Chicago, St. Bonaventure, UNCW, UNC Greensboro, NJIT, Hampton, Radford, Indiana State, Holy Cross, Denver, Southern Miss, VMI, and UTSA. Again, looks like a guy with a lot of potential to play that wing for us. Welcome to the Gaels, Kome Emuobor.
Ionas.
And finally, for our commits, welcome to Iona Yafet Mundi. Hopefully I'm pronouncing both of those right. 6'8", from Panola Junior College. He's a forward, obviously, from Paris originally. He was the only European player in JUCO who averaged a double-double this year, 13 and 10. He shot 60% from the field. Originally committed to High Point, but he had prior offers before that from Western Kentucky, Arkansas State, Missouri State, Southeast Missouri, Kennesaw State, and CSUN. And he is the number 21 ranked JUCO in the latest rankings that only came out a couple weeks ago. So he is up there pretty high in the list, higher than I think any other JUCO that's entered the MAC thus far. But again, 6'8". If you look highlights of him, very athletic, rugged kid, runs the floor well. He's going to fit in great into this system. So welcome to Iona Yafet Mundi.
Ionas.
Our final Iota. Let's go golfing. Got a couple of things here. The 2024 Iona Athletics Golf Outing will be taking place on June 3rd at Waikagill Country Club. As most listening should know, the IonaHoops.com message board community has been supporting this event in recent years by sponsoring the beverage cart. If you want to contribute, please hit me up on the board or on Twitter or via email at generichoopfan@yahoo.com, and I'll let you know how to be part of the action. For clarity, this is the Iona Athletics Golf Outing. This is the benefit that benefits Iona Athletics. It's not part of the Gaels Nation NAL Collective. But while I'm on that, save the date of Monday, July 29th for the Gaels Nation Invitational Golf Outing at Siwanoy Country Club. This one is specifically for the collective. More details on that one are going to be coming out shortly, so stay tuned. Get your clubs out, people. Okay, let's get to the new feature on this podcast that debuted last time out, the State of the Union. All right, with all of the high-flying recruiting stuff that's been going on the past, months, it seems like now. Yeah, it's hard to believe it's really the season's only been over about 6 weeks, given that the roster is completely different. Quick look at the whole roster here as we get into this. I kind of grouped them in roughly by position, for lack of a better term. The ones and twos, we'll have Justin Menard and Adam Najai, as well as Christian Winborn and Dejor Reeves, who we heard about earlier in the Iotas. We're going to talk more about a couple of those guys in a little bit. Guys who are more along the lines of 2s, 3s, I would say, are Jojo Wallace and Kome Emiobor. I would say right now the guy who's most likely to kind of split time between the 3 and the 4 would be James Patterson. And guys who are truly 4s and 5s would be Jacob Hogarth, Luke Jungers, Clarence Rupert, and Yafet Mundi. So that leaves us 2 open spots. Who are we going to go after with those 2 open spots? Well, I put this question out on Twitter and just, again, general feedback on the message board. Consensus is that we need more height, like a true center is a better way of describing it. So I'll define center as somebody more in that neighborhood of 6'10", 6'11", at least. Truly a big man. Certainly it could be a stretch 5, just to have somebody that's tall enough to get out there and be in the mix or not. So that I think is something that the staff's looking at. From what I can tell, just doing some recon, the other spot is a complete wild card. They might, there's not a rush on either of these, by the way, now that they've gotten most of the roster in place. So there is the new rule that's come out now that players have to declare for the JUCO. Wow, declare for the portal by May 1st, which is just a few days away. So that could open up some doors here for some new players to hit in the next few days. So it's very possible one of these spots can be filled by somebody who's not even in the portal yet. So we'll have to see about that. But just some names that we've been linked to, of some guys in higher conferences, maybe 1 or 2 reaches in there as well. And I will say this too: I'm feeling we're going to hold one of those open spots to see what Ansley Amanor does. He was supposed to visit Tulsa after Siena. I don't know if that visit ever happened. He did visit Pepperdine. I mean, if you don't know where Pepperdine is, it's in Malibu on the beach. But I also don't know anything about Pepperdine's NIL. So. And I just keep hearing some rumblings that Siena is still in play. So we're going to have to see. Hopefully, certainly the Almanor does not become public enemy number 1 for us here by choosing to go to Siena rather than coming to play for Tobin here at Iona. Or if Pepperdine just woos him with the wonderful beach that they have on their campus, pretty much. So we'll see about that. But I have a feeling that Tobin will hold this spot just to make sure, to see what, I'm guessing that and this is again, complete guess, that Tobin probably said, hey, Ansley, go out and explore, see what opportunities are out there for you. And we're here for you if you don't see anything you like. And of course, I'm sure we're going to do our best to keep him too, but we've probably invested some NIL dollars already on some of these guys to land them. So I don't know how much more is in the pot. So we will see about all of that. There's a chance he'll be here, and he would certainly make us better. He'd be a first team MAC, probably all MAC kind of guy if he comes here. So it would be certainly something to see. So we're going to hold that spot until the kid commits, I have a feeling, and then we'll go get somebody else. But yeah, otherwise, outside of holding for Ansley, I think those 2 roster spots, they're going to look for some additional height, something again, 6'10" and up. I would define that as a true center or at least a stretch center. And then the other spot is more of a flyer for best available player, whether that's Amanor or a random guard that has a great track record. So we'll see about that. So that's where we're at with the roster. It's one of the comments that again I've heard, we need more height. There's a possibility we won't get more height, and then that might lead some people to think that I'm going to put the air quotes around this, that Tobin failed and didn't bring in a true center. Do you know anything about these guys? I mean, Clarence Rupert plays bigger than he is. He was basically their center when he was on the floor during the Elite 8 run for St. Peter's because, Nadefo, who, by the way, is probably really their center, was 6'7". So height does not correlate to rim protection or rebounding or interior scoring or anything like that. Does it help? Sure it does. But I can also find you examples of teams that defend really well, that rebound well, that have, great scoring in the paint, that are not big. You don't have to have size. It helps. And I'm not saying we shouldn't try to get it. If for some reason we don't bring in somebody with height, we are still at this moment have 5 guys on the roster who are 6'7" and up. So it's not like we have no size. And let's face it, we're only going to play 2 of those 5 at a time. Except I would think, unless again I label James Patterson as a 3-4. He's probably more of a 4. But I labeled him as a 3-4 just to do so because we can go bigger. I mean, I think he just from what I've seen of watching him, and again I haven't coached him or anything. He looks like he could probably play a 3 for us a little bit if we want to quote unquote go bigger and have Rupert out there with Mundi or somebody else. So we'll have to see how all that plays out, but. A couple other things about how this roster was built, and this was a discussion that was on Twitter as well. This team is tougher. I mean, you can see it. There's a different kind of mental makeup of these kids. They're from teams from programs they've transferred in. They're from programs that are winning. They're coming from winning cultures, not from programs that have struggled. And guys, I mean, you can have great talent, and I hate to use Joel Brown as an example. A great talent, but how many situations was he put in his lifetime while at Cal for a chance to win games? They didn't win a lot while he was there, and certainly didn't in his last year there. That makes a difference. It makes a difference in the locker room. It makes a difference on the court. So there's some more culture guys here. Somebody like Clarence Rupert came from an Elite 8 St. Peter's team, and then was had a very successful Southern Illinois program. So. Guys like that who just know what it takes to win makes a difference. And I think I did talk about this a bit in the last episode. So I do think we're starting to see a little bit more culture and certainly toughness coming in with guys like Rupert. If you watch the tape on Mundi, Jacob Hogarth is young, but he's physical. Certainly Patterson is no wuss out there. He's not going to get pushed around. So there's some, while we might not be towering over people and we may not look like much coming out of the locker room, again, assuming we don't add height, this is a tougher group than what we had last year. And for all the talk of we need a 7-footer, we had a 7-footer last year. Granted, Oz was not healthy completely, but we had a 7-footer and we didn't have rim protection, we didn't have interior defense at all, and we didn't have low post scoring from him. So the idea that you absolutely have to have some height to win or having that height certainly doesn't guarantee anything. So we will see. We will see what these last 2 spots reveal. But that's my take on this on the toughness of the roster and the height of the roster, because I do think somebody like Rupert can guard a 6'10", 6'11" kid. He's physical and strong enough and experienced enough too, which also makes a difference. So we will see about all of that. And so anyway, I like the direction we're going. Of course, Tobin still has the task of meshing all these guys together. We saw last year that that's not easy. And it might not be easy again. We'll find out. But I think just with a little bit of culture, some toughness that we've instilled here in this roster, we're in a better spot. And we'll have to wait and see how it all turns out, of course. And there's going to be a lot of people judging Tobin on this season, and I'm sure Tobin will be judging himself on this season too, now that it is season 2. But this roster, looks like the kind of roster that the things that were missing from this year's team seem to be addressed going to what we want for that next season. So we shall see, especially as those last 2 spots fill up. And now I wanted to switch over. We haven't had a guest for a bit now on an episode. You guys know last year we tried to keep up with all the new players and previewing, giving you guys a little scout on a bunch of new guys. Well, I'm bringing in somebody here to cover us here. His name is Zach Smart. He's been a recruiting reporter for Rivals for many years, and he knows the New York and Connecticut areas and the New England prep leagues and all of that. So he is going to talk about all 4 of our freshmen right now.
Zach Smart has provided recruiting coverage for New York City Hoops, NYCHoops.net, part of the Rivals Network. For about 5 years now, he's seen a ton of players develop into D1 talent, and that includes Iona's newest crop of freshmen. He joins us now to give us a little taste of what's in store for Iona fans this season. Zach, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, guys, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be on.
I mentioned your experience in recruiting coverage. Take a moment and give us a little bit more about your background.
Okay, well, got to be honest, I'm from New York originally. I grew up in Westchester County, east of the Hudson. So, I've seen a lot of guys come and go over the years. And obviously, these past 4 or 5, 6 years, it's kind of intensified. And even amid COVID, I want to say that your guy, Tobin Anderson, he's all across the map. The guy doesn't freaking sleep, okay? He's been all over the New York City map. He's in Queens, he's in Brooklyn, he's in freaking Staten Island. The guy doesn't rest. So I've been pretty impressed with that. Whether it's Westchester County, Prep in Queens, Fordham University for the CHSAAs. Coach is really there. He's investing in the workload as a local presence. You don't always see that from a head coach recruiting that kind of, around the clock. He's constantly at games, constantly not only with a showcase or playoffs, he's at every game. So that's pretty cool to see. And I've been pretty impressed with that, his know-how and his, he's an Iowa-bred New Yorker, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, too, is that because he comes from a Division II, and of course in Division II, those guys got to go out and do all that work for themselves, whereas in D1, it's usually their assistants. So he's got his own little habits that he still probably has carried over.
Yeah, well, I tell people all the time, when I was at Scotland campus, his SID role, we were number 1 in the country. One year, we were number 3 in the country, and, he was very active in that environment. He was always working hard, and whether it's the head coach or the assistant coach, he was always keeping on track of what we were doing and kind of keeping his ear to the ground. So I noticed he's got that blackout work ethic, and he's got that embedded in his blood. So it's been really unique to see. And, it's no surprise he is where he is right now. He knows what brand of player he's looking for at Iona. He's had tremendous success with New York guys, not only during his stay at Stack, but also at FDU. And like I said, guys, it's no surprise that he is where he is. It's no fluke or accident. He was able to rewrite the pages of history with FDU and that team that pulled off pulsating upset over Purdue in the tournament 2 years ago. So,
yeah.
If you can remember correctly, it was a New York point guard. It was Mount Vernon guy, Dimitri Roberts.
That's right.
Who played a major role in that team, was instrumental in leading them. During his time there, he's a really battle-tested guard. Obviously, he was with Tobin before at Stack, and I think he averaged about 16 and 4 that year. So he had a pretty prominent role in how that whole thing wound up.
And now he's continuing the tradition. He's got a lot of New England prep guys coming in. We got a wonderful Cardinal Hayes recruit. So we're going to hit on all of them right now. I want to start with the first of the freshmen that committed, and that's Justin Menard, 6'3", St. Thomas More.
Yes.
Tell me about what you've seen of him and what Iona fans should expect.
Justin Menard is really a game manager. He's got unique positional size. He had several games this season where he had double-digit rebounds. So, he thrives in an up-tempo attack, similar to the one employed at Iona that Tobin likes to run. And, played for one of the best coaches to ever do it, Jerry Quinn. That's a legendary, exalted figure at the prep level. And the guy's been doing it forever. And, Justin was obviously a really, really good traditional point guard, and he can score at all 3 levels. He really sees the floor well. So I think he should translate right away. He's definitely stronger than he looks. It's funny, people say he doesn't really look athletic or he doesn't look but he can play. That's so, 22 points, 10 rebound game this past season. I think his desire to win and work ethic, mirrors that of Coach Anderson. I pulled this up from the commitment article. I'm browsing here. Justin says this: Tobin Anderson is the basketball junkie. He knows so much. Success he has had is no accident. I think that his style of playing fast certainly fits my game. I'm extremely excited. He had a good visit last year, so he really expressed that it was just the way the team practiced, how everything kind of morphs to a competition in Coach Anderson's practice. That really resonated with him. So I think you're getting a kid who has that same work ethic as the coach, which is, blue collar,
Yep. All right, the next 2 guys, you talked about great programs. How about South Kent?
Great program.
Yep, let's start with Jacob Hogarth. He's 6'9", but you can talk about JoJo Wallace as well, 6'4" guard. Tell us about those 2 guys.
Let's start with JoJo Wallace. Great bloodline. He's the son of one of the most memorable players in Syracuse history, and John Wallace. he had success really early in his career, guy. I think he averaged 21 points per game as a freshman, and then obviously he transferred over to South Kent Prep, playing for Rafael Chilius, one of the best prep coaches there is. Coach Chill, he coached at the collegiate level. Really runs his program kind of like a college program, and they've had a lot of success. And just a 3-level scorer, a kid that gets to his spots effectively, picks his spots well, can shoot it. So I think that's a big pickup for them. And I think that he's going to also have the chance to play right away and be an impact kid. As far as Jacob, I think he's really unique. I mean, he's 6'9", but he's kind of built like an MMA fighter. You know what I mean? He's just a big body, you know? He soft touch from 15 to 18 feet, catch and dunk threat. You know, he plays well with his back to the rim, and you know he's still evolving in that department of his game. But I mean, the kid is a rebound, just he gobbles rebounds. So I mean, that's what I noticed from him at this level. Is just really workmanlike. And again, you know, playing for a great program with Coach Chill, national schedule, and he's already kind of experienced that type of workload and that type of environment. It kind of translates, you know. So I mean, you're playing against fifth-year guys, fourth-year guys that are heavily recruited and national-level recruits. That prepares you for the rigors of that level. So I think he obviously has the tools to come in and go to work right away. Nice.
So those guys all committed pretty early, and they stuck around when everybody else didn't believe in Rochelle. So that says a lot about them as well. But then we added another guy. Tell us about Adam Najai.
You know what? It's crazy. I think Adam Finkelstein made a great analogy when he described Najai as a high school version of Tim Hardaway. I think he said that it was during the Don Bosco game. I'm not sure when it was, but, you know, that's pretty fitting. I think Adam is really quick, getting to his seams. He's really crafty, around the rim arsenal. He just hits difficult shots for traffic, guy. I mean, he's able to really pick his spots effectively, like JoJo, knocks down shots on the move, a step back, pull up, one-on-one hesitation, changing directions, changing locations. He's just tough to guard, man. The kid is tough to guard. And that's really his game, is that he's able to deceive people. He's able to get to he's able to just change directions, change moves. He's unique in that he can get to where he wants to off the dribble. And he's probably going to have to minimize the number of dribbles he utilizes at collegiate level, which I think is going to be easy for him, you know, because he's played at a high level as well. Sophomore, he was at Hillcrest. Then he went to Hayes when they had Ian Jackson. They had, you know, Elijah Moore on that team. So, I mean, they were loaded up. So he's played at a high level everywhere he's been, similar to the other guys we mentioned. So with his development year, this past year, on a youth-laden and talented Cardinal Hayes team, you know, obviously it was a transition year for them, guy, but he was really a consistent long-range shooter this year. Opened up his three-point shot, you know, could dial from distance. And he was able to spark runs with his three-level scoring. He's really a creative player. Offensively, he's creative, creates for others. You know, he's become more explosive. So, I mean, he led a lot of high major looks all across the board since he was a sophomore. You know, tough kid out of the Bronx. Early on in his career at Arizona State, Georgia Tech, TCU. So a lot of high-level schools were involved. You know, so prior to his time at Expressions Elite, where he played alongside his friend Steven Solano, who I was just committed to Joe's, you know, he's able to really manufacture offense in a variety of ways. And he's just got a powerful handle and deftness for carving his way to the rim. So I think Adam's a kid that, you know, was really highly recruited that stayed local. You know, I think it's a great place for him. I think Iona's going to love, you know, his quickness and his ability to get to the rim and just his craftiness. I think that's something the fans are really going to relish during his time at Iona.
So there's two themes I want to bring out that you've kind of covered with all four of these guys.
Sure.
So this past season, Iona's roster was filled with a lot of guys that were more one-dimensional variety. There was a time where Tobin questioned their toughness. I think for each one of these guys, you kind of got into how versatile their games are, but also how tough they are. Do you think it's a different type of recruiting here that we're seeing?
Well, again, you know, going back to what I was saying before, Tobin, like Tim Cluse, like we were saying before him, he knows what he wants in a player. You know, he doesn't go in a gym and not know what he's looking for. I think toughness is kind of synonymous with some of the teams he had, not only at FDU, but, you know, at SAC before that. So I think that really he understands what he's looking for. He knows the recruiting landscape. He knows the recruiting culture. And he really, like I said, tri-state guys that bring toughness and versatility. He's been very good at getting in this offseason. So that's something that's unique about all four of them. That all of them can do a variety of things, and all of them play with toughness and, you know, mental toughness. And I think that's what differentiates this group, and that's what could differentiate this group after this year.
And why do you think Iona's going to love these guys?
I think Iona's going to love just how hard they play. And that's one thing you notice about all of them, is they all are pretty much full throttle, guys that take every possession serious, hard, and you see that through all their games. I mean, Justin Menard, he had games where he was just in a different zone. I mean, he gets into the games, really fiery competitor, and I think that kind of resonates with all of them. JoJo's played, he's been a 4-year player in each level. He's been a scorer and a guy that could put the team on his shoulders during crucial transitions of the game. So I think that's something that they all have in common, is they all, have a killer instinct. They all have that mentality that resonates. And, it's no secret, like I said, Tobin actually is very adept from what I've seen of him. He's very adept at finding the type of player he wants that fits that system.
So now I'll get your opinion on something that's really affected Iona as well as a lot of other mids. Okay, so let's say these guys all come in and perform pretty well, or maybe some of them are a little slower to develop and don't get a lot of run. We saw that this past year with Iona's freshmen, the better ones are looking to transfer up, and the ones that didn't play a lot didn't want to stick around. They wanted to go somewhere else so they can get minutes. What's happening in college basketball here? Is this a permanent thing now? Are we going to see these guys for 1 year and then they're going to be gone again? What do you think's going to happen?
What I've really noticed the trends, a lot of mid-major guys, they do their numbers at a school and they like the coaching staff and they love the school, but they end up leaving. They don't want to go high major, Or NIL's coming into play, and they want to get obviously every. The most they can get, and that's completely understandable given how hard you work and given how much pressure you're under. They should obviously be compensated, but that's all across the board. So that's like you said, that's at every school in the country almost. Guys that, whether it's low major or mid major, guys that have successful years, they want to weigh the market. Some of them might come back from school. Some of them might leave. It's just craziness, So it's pretty much an unpredictable area, is that transfer market.
Yeah, it's so
I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. I know, was May 1st the deadline, or
May 1st is the portal deadline? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that, like I said, Iona, they've always had good guards. Go back to Ricky McGill, or some other guys in English. I think that the fact that they've got so many, such a rich tradition of guard play, that's going to obviously help them, and that's going to give the fans something that they really savor about this group. But with the portal, it's just so much unpredictability, So it's definitely tricky, and that it's definitely unpredictable, and it definitely works in mysterious ways how that transfer portal comes, and what's triggering these kids to leave, even when they're happy, and even when they love the coaching staff and they love playing for the head coach. It's not a surprise to see a kid who loves where he is the way to market or to leave after a year or 2 years.
Yep.
So that's kind of the pattern this year.
Well, we'll definitely see what happens here, and we'll definitely see if your scouts on these guys is accurate, which I have a feeling it is, because I've known you for years, I've followed you for years, and I love your takes. So it's going to be fun. We're looking forward to seeing how these guys again blending in with a bunch of new guys to the program coming out of the portal. Makes it interesting. Right. Sometimes the freshmen can crack right in, sometimes they can't, and we'll see what happens here. But either way, appreciate you coming on to give us a scout, and nothing but the best. Hope to catch up with you again during the season.
Likewise. Thanks for having me. Tell Coach Anderson to get some sleep, man.
We'll do.
Every game.
We'll do.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
I apologize for the quality of that audio. It was not the best feed that we could have had there for that, but it is what it is sometimes. And hey, I have no operating budget, so it's what it is. Anyway, thank you again for listening to this episode of the podcast. We'll keep them coming every couple of weeks, and hopefully, and then we'll see if those next 2 spots are filled the next time we have an episode. Or maybe we'll know some scheduling. Who knows? Anyway, thanks again for joining, and go Gaels.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the IonaHoops.com podcast. This podcast is a production of IonaHoops.com with publisher Guy Filatico. The opinions shared during this podcast are those of Guy Filatico, IonaHoops.com, and any featured guests. This podcast is not affiliated with Iona University Athletics or the university itself. Thank you for supporting IonaHoops.com.